me tell you about a friend. It's Craig LeBlanc where the good times never end. Talking Parks and Rec, it's a show you gotta know. Welcome one and all to the Daily Parks and Rec Show. It's the Daily Parks and Rec Show.
Inspections are a rudimentary element within being CAPRA accredited, and you have to prove that your staff is actively searching and looking for concerns or damages or whatever of that nature. Whether that's an athletic field inspection, a playground inspection, a sport court inspection, or even just a general park inspection, that's something that is definitely inherently important to Dallas Park. In addition to performing their maintenance tasks, but just going back and looking at other elements of the park that may not be inherently their sole focus for the day there.
Welcome back to the Daily Parks and Rec Show, where we dive into the critical work behind keeping our parks and recreational spaces running smoothly. Today, we're talking about facilities maintenance, the backbone of vibrant public spaces. Maintaining parks involves managing everything from irrigation and athletic fields to urban forestry and equipment care. Inspections play a key role in ensuring these spaces remain functional and safe for the community. Plus, new data-driven systems like Cartograph are revolutionizing the way inspections are handled, helping park agencies make informed decisions, allocate resources better, and serve the community more effectively. Stay tuned as we explore the vital role of facilities maintenance in our parks and recreation. We are live again. This is Craig LeBlanc and Joseph. Now, I think we can officially call Joseph a regular on the maintenance show. So I appreciate him helping me to launch this channel. We've got a lot of great stuff happening. There's so much content to cover in parks maintenance, I'm discovering. Me as a lowly little electrician, like I was a few decades ago, that's the only part of maintenance that I understood. But as I dig deeper and peel back the layers, there's it's such a broad topic to discover facilities maintenance. But anyway, how are you doing today, Joseph?
I'm doing well, sir. Thank you for the kind welcome and shout out there. As probably our viewers can tell, this isn't my quaint little room with my park cats and such. I'm here in the office here in the beautiful Pleasant Grove at Crawford Park. So things are going good, and happy to assist in your facility maintenance show, sir. So
yeah, thank you.
It's always a blast.
Yeah. I put something in the private chat. I don't know if you can you read what I put over there? Over to the right.
I did. Yes, sir.
And this is something that me and Daniel live started working on, just a list of topics or job titles that Parks and Rec find themselves in. And so I'm gonna just kind of roll through them real quick and then see if there's one that pops out to you that you'd like to say something about as we start to define parks and recreation facilities maintenance. So we'll just start off with inspection. So this is the kind of stuff that somebody in Parks and Rec might find themselves in charge of or thrown at them, and they just have to figure it out. So inspections, project management, irrigation, found out irrigation is a big one, athletic maintenance, general park maintenance, master planning, landscape team, special events, urban forestry, litter and restroom cleaning, equipment maintenance, grant writing on the maintenance stuff, managing trade staff, people managing software, aeration of the fields, another big one, turf management, pesticides, chemicals, fertilizers. And I think that's all we got right now. Well, first of all, anything that you want to add to
that? You know, the thing about mostly all of that is those are, I would say, good umbrella terms to which there is going to be a level of deeper execution behind. And again, and when you read them, they could seem pretty generic and simple in essence, but making sure that you can commit to a set schedule and making sure that the standard SOPs are conducted in the right fashion, which essentially is just a standardized procedures from the department. And inspections, as nuanced as it may sound, again, if your park system will reach a point and your staff more so, where it's just regular scheduled programming. And unless they're kind of filling out a form to kind of go indicate that they did look at something and it did pass or fail something, for CAPRA purposes, which if the viewers don't know what CAPRA is, essentially it's the national accreditation for park agencies. And if you do receive a CAPRA accreditation, or your agency does, it necessarily means that your agency is following accordingly to some of the best management practices and advised practices for the public and use of taxpayers. So where am I going with all of that? Inspections are inspections are a rudimentary element within being CAPRA accredited, and you have to prove that your staff is actively searching and looking for concerns or damages or whatever of that nature. And so whether that's an athletic field inspection, a playground inspection, a sport court inspection, or even just a general park inspection, that's something that is definitely inherently important to Dallas parks, and something that our teams are constantly going out and in addition to performing their maintenance tasks, but just going back and looking at other elements of the park that may not be inherently their sole focus for the day there. So sometimes our playground inspectors can do a park inspection and alert us of some dying plant material near the rec center, or some additional pests or fungus within some a tree orchard, or things of that nature, to which since a system as large as Dallas, obviously it's like a Jenga piece. So sometimes, let's say our pesticide applicator, who would be treating for those funguses or bugs, their cycles aren't necessarily synchronized. So if let's say he had just went to that park 6 days ago, it's going to be X amount until he's there. So these inspections are also helpful for myself and their supervisors to go ahead and reroute accordingly, so we can catch a concern and try to get it mitigated before it does become something worse than that. And again, irrigation. So as especially in Texas,
just on inspections, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So what is there like a checklist? How long is this checklist for a normal park? And is this all run on software that y'all typically have, where somebody's going there with an iPad and saying, all right, here's the 7 points on the playground, here's a few points for the parking lot, for the bathroom, and then they can leave and it's sent back to a database?
Well, you asked that. So that is a great question, and I briefly want to apologize, because as I am at my my workplace, I think my Wi-Fi is not as fast as it is at the house, so there is a little bit of a delay. But to your point about the inspections, you asked that at a great time, because operationally 4 months ago, if you were to ask that, my answer would be different. So we've recently implemented Cartograph, the work order system, within the last month, and so we're slowly phasing from our previous work order system into this, which would allow us and our crew leaders on a tablet a very simplistic user interface, to where it's going to be a series of safety related and just aesthetic related questions for those inspections. Now, departmentally, you definitely can add more to these inspections, just if you want to capture those aspects of metrics. But for CAPRA accreditation, there are templates that they do kind of advise to follow. Excuse me. But like I mentioned, you can the department can always add more stringent components to make sure that they're going to go ahead and capture that. So we do use paper copies, which again, some staff members that works best for them. And but we also use a Google form that the database is kind of on a shared document to where you can see what scored what, and the date and who conducted the inspection. And so now, as I mentioned before, we're going to take both of those components and kind of throw them into our new work order system, to that way everything is going to be streamlined in one place. And once we get the inspection from there, staff, supervisors, and the manager, myself, will get an email saying, hey, this park's inspection on trash cans failed. Why? Rusted out bottom, or whatever the case may be. And so it's which is going to be very beneficial, because in a very data driven climate and work atmosphere, and especially within the public sector, uh, constituents and citizens alike are more so leaning towards that data driven processes. And so they want to be able to see, again, staff responded to this many concerns. We had 75 instances of graffiti in the last 3 months, things of that nature. So effectively, I would assume our city manager and other leadership can then kind of sequester other elements to kind of assist as needed. So I always say to my staff, again, the inspections play into a bigger picture that you may not see at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's how they kind of make decisions as far as probably replacement decisions, any maintenance, deferred maintenance program stuff needs to be on. So it's kind of how they allocate manpower and capital. So inspections is kind of the eyes. Inspection is the eyes and the ears of the management side. At least that's how
exactly. And to your point about deferred maintenance, the more often that you're doing these inspections, you're going to be better equipped to package that to your executive team and say, hey, 6 months ago these concerns cost this much, now this is snowballing. And you can really illustrate a level of importance by illustrating the story. And that's something that I was always told in my career is, especially the higher you go, is you really got to tell the story, so that way they understand the full concept and context of how bad was it and how bad is it now, and how easy is the solution. So deferred maintenance, you definitely hit a bell with me when you say deferred maintenance, because in my experience, when the public is talking and they have negative aspects or connotations about their local park or their park agency in general, a lot of their concerns are simply deferred maintenance. It's something that they're just shifting back off into the back burner. And whether or not you have a catch-22, do we build new or do we replace what we have? That's where there's other elements into play. Where is this contributing to a 15-minute walk for a walkable city, for recreational components? Is this investment beyond? Did we put it in a floodplain? Do we need to necessarily just shut this down so we can put our money somewhere else that's going to serve the public better? And so so it's always it's a juggling process at that point. And that's where you have to paint the picture, you have to tell the story, and then you let the public and your constituents make that call respectively.
Yeah. Now, are there any others on? Now, I know with Daniel, he's kind of more over, like, all of this falls on him, but because you're in Dallas and there's just a lot more people to spread the different, hats around, which hats would you say when that you wear?
I would say I definitely delve into some project management components, but not from a CIP level of at least not here. In my past agency, that I was no stranger to that set of responsibilities. But like you said, it's just a matter of how big the pie is here, and making sure that we have the workloads are sufficient for everybody. Definitely no stranger to athletic field maintenance. That is our bread and butter. Master planning. So that in my past agency, I was leaned on a little bit more so for master planning, and whether it was sitting into meetings with consultants and just attending meetings and things of that nature. I did have some experience there. To which
Now, why do you want
let's see.
someone in maintenance at a master plan meeting? Maybe if you could kind of explain to the audience why that's important.
Well, this might be one of those industry specific jokes, but you know, it's you always want your plans to be looked at by a number of people, because a landscape architect is not, I mean, their plan may look great on paper, but then when you get out there and the workers are actually putting it on, developing it, you know, somebody with an actual green thumb is going to say, why in the heck did they put this spray head right here on the corner here? And this is going to cause, so it's very helpful, because there are some nuances that that might get lost in the sauce, for lack of a better word, when a project is going through that 30, 60, 90 design process, and then at the point of 90%, I'm not going to say I've ever done this, but I'm sure that there are some people that say, hey, this is 90%. I've already have X amount on my plate. It looks fine to me. To where they're not going to be putting that inherent level of focus as to somebody on entry level or on the out in the field, who is going to have to make this a reality. So things are going to look a lot different when they're in the excavated pit versus just, you know, on a diagram, hey, this is supposed to be this deep. So I found that in my I found in my experience, something that some of the smaller cities do is a higher level of emphasis of special events and bigger events, and that's something that I was cutting my teeth on. So we were having a post recap about one of our biggest events of the year, and I decided to have one or two of my crew leaders just involved, just because I wanted to seek their input. And to my surprise, there was a couple of suggestions from them that were big roadblocks during the actual duration of the event. And so it's you always want to bounce things off, but especially you want to include the people who are going to be conducting the work into the planning phase of it. At the end of the day, they may buy into this concept earlier on and make it a little bit more easy for them to digest it as they get issued to them, or you might catch an issue at the you know, inception stage, you know, to save a bunch of change orders and money, or, you know, whatever the case may be. You may cut the time from the final design, you know, by a month or two, instead of having to go back and forth for changing the scope of work. So it's also just good business, in my opinion. They may not have to sit into the go ahead.
Well, so one thing I was thinking is, it takes a couple of months to draw it. It takes a year to build it, and then it takes 20 years to maintain it. And the maintenance side is the people that actually worked for the city. And so I would love to, if I was in charge of this project, I would say, let's get the maintenance people in there and see what we can do to make it easier to maintain. Because if I create a weekly problem times 52 weeks a year times 20, then I'm creating a lot of problems that never end, that can make the cost of maintaining a project you know, much higher, when I could have just got the guy that's got to maintain the water heads, weed eat around obstacles, you know, deal with what I'm drawing or what I'm installing. Get somebody that's going to stand on this property for, you know, 2 decades to weigh in on the situation, on what it takes to maintain this. That's just, I mean, that's how my head works. I'm hoping that would be logical for most people, but maybe, you know, somebody's got to throw it out there.
Exactly, and a good example of that would be, let's say we're going to have we're going to refresh a quadplex, right? And in the past, it was a budget fields, and it was just some clay and some grass and a makeshift fence. So if we're gonna, let's say it was earmarked for a substantial upgrade, and yet there's no mow strip around the entirety of the outfield, right? That's something that inherently, yes, it's going to that is going to be an added cost, and that much concrete going all the way around the outsides of the outfield there. But if you think of, well, we would have to weed eat X amount, plus then it's going to look like crap. Then the bottom of the fence is going to start getting damaged and curling up from runners and folks just running into the fence. How much is this going to cost us in the long run in terms of labor and materials and just overall aesthetics? So that's one thing that just a small example of something that could be an oversight from a design firm, or just somebody that just said, hey, this is how much the project's going to cost, let's just get it done. Oh wait, I forgot about that. So it's just good natured, like I mentioned earlier, just to get in the habit of just seeking your feedback from your team.
Yeah, it's kind of like building a home with the home, the people who are going to live in the home, weighing in on the situation. They kind of know what they want, they know
Exactly.
what they have to do. I'll give you a great example of how sometimes there's no way to know how to do something until it's used. LSU, there was the famous, I don't know if you ever heard of a guy named Huey P. Long. He was like a famous governor of ours and almost ran for president, and then he got shot. But anyway, he was big into LSU, and he made sure that they did not put any sidewalks in. And so I think for a couple of years, LSU didn't have sidewalks, and then he told them to go put sidewalks over all the walking paths that the kids had beaten into the ground. And that way, when you see these sidewalks, and it's like they jump because there's a shorter path, and then now there's just a dirt path all over the entire campus. And so that's why when you go to LSU, you see these windy sidewalks. That's why.
Dadgummit. No, well, no, that's I didn't hear about him, but B, there's your sign, right?
Yeah.
Where, if addressed a little bit earlier on in the thought process, we might have a straight sidewalk.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Sorry.
All right. Anything else in here that
Dadgummit,
speaks to you?
oh yes, again, landscape, planning the landscape teams. Well, no, just landscape teams. That is definitely our bread and butter. Restroom cleaning. That's something that is a big focus on our end. Now, in just a comparison from a large city to smaller municipalities, almost every park that I had at when I was working for another agency had a brick and mortar restroom, and as opposed to just one, where in my respective entirety of my park district, excuse me, and of course those come with their own inherent challenges. You have X amount, you have active plumbing, you have active electrical components there, and then of course homes for unsheltered individuals. And so it's much deeper and more complex and demanding than just, hey, send somebody over there to just clean them, especially if you don't have plumbers or electricians or a general handyman on your team, because some municipalities are very heavily contract based, and an issue like that could pose a stickier challenge than one could assume. Maintenance grant writing on trades, and unfortunately he's got me there. I don't do too much grant writing. It sounds very, very cool.
I have a question for you.
And helpful. Yes, sir.
Can you explain the difference between landscape maintenance and just cutting the grass, and how it's how is that different? Do you send different crews? What are we talking about when we say landscape? Can you kind of add a little color to that?
Can you I heard the tail end of it, we kind of glitched out on the
Oh,
like explaining the difference. Like, can you repeat that?
yeah, just explain the difference between landscape teams and landscape management, and then just regular, field maintenance where you might just be sending someone out there with a lawnmower, a weed eater, and a blower versus maybe there's like some hardscapes or, anything else where you're kind of maintaining a landscape.
Absolutely. So, and that's definitely a fair and valid question, because some park assets, right, green space park or whatever, it's an asset, may not be as an orthodox park where it's primarily turf. Now, for my strike teams that service our properties in respects to grounds maintenance, it is a comprehensive approach. So
Mm,
even if it was an urban designer area with a hardscapes where you have some weeds growing in the cracks, or you have you have a different set of blemishes to address. We still have expectations for them to deliver on those as they would on a primarily turf based property, with some beautification elements, de-weeding the bed, trimming lightly, making sure your mower can get underneath the tree canopies. So there is a level that we do ask for assistance in diameter and height, but we have our internal forestry departments for that.
mm,
So again, if it's that might be like the only outlier, and even then, sometimes our guys are um, squarely enough to take those concerns onto on their end. Some of them have those that forestry background, so it's not anything where it's unusual for them. But besides that component, for the most part, if it pertains to grounds, my strike teams will be delivering the goods on that, and that could be parking lot cleaning as well. I mean, and not inherently the landscape, but let's say we had a group of folks just want to kill a 24 pack in a parking lot, and all of the glass bottles do not reach a receptacle, and they all hit the parking lot. That is still a concern, challenge, and something that the teams would immediately respond to upon their grounds maintenance service of the property.
right. Now,
And then, like in short, I mean, they also.
well, let's talk about the pesticides, chemicals, fertilizers. I wanted to touch on that a little because I know there's a lot of licensing and that the team needs to be able to apply and even to buy them. But yeah, if any familiarity with any of that?
Yes, sir. So as you mentioned, that is a licensed position, and one that, depending on if it's a controlled product or not, you do need to be a TDA, at least in Texas, the Texas Department of Agriculture licensed. And specifically for municipalities, it would be for the non-commercial political subdivision version of. Um, so inherently, if there is some brown patch, or if there's some mildew, a powdery mildew on some on some ornamental trees, that's something our licensed applicators would be inherently trained and ready to treat and monitor, because one-time application isn't going to necessarily do it's not going to be God's gift to earth. But again, inspections, you get back into the habit of coming back and checking on it. Hey, we've made 40% push for the disease, and let's go ahead and follow back and schedule another application, and kind of go from there. So our applicators are kind of our people who are treat for our weeds, as they do a lot of broadcast and spraying. So our athletic fields get our pre-emergent, post-emergent spot spraying. They fertilize for us. They put out ant bait. We use Top Choice and some other products, but that it gives a year-round blanket for playgrounds and other communal areas of interest. And essentially that. And now Dallas is placing a bigger emphasis on conservation, and really making sure that you know, invasive species are being selectively identified and removed, and just in an, because that's the other side of the coin. You can start you know, can't use MSMA everywhere, but you can have a radical approach, but then if your contingency plan is not necessarily having anything that's going to actively benefit the environment in terms of allowing natives to the space to grow, and that they can contribute their unique elements to the environment, allow wildlife to go and frolic in their leaves or hide there. So it's I know I gave you a mouthful there, but our
Yeah.
applicators are they definitely have their workload, but it's in a very directed fashion, right?
Right.
So we've been, how do I say, advised to limit Roundup usage and glyphosate usages, and that's a big key topic, you know, in this industry, and especially in California, where they have that marquee lawsuit about, you know, carcinogens and, you know, glyphosates causing cancer. But as somebody in the industry, glyphosates, they, you know, they work for, it's an easy button to press, right?
Right.
And
Right.
that's where some of the challenges come to, where we can't take the easy option. We can't take the low hanging fruit, because we want to be able to sustain some of these positive elements of the environment, and the
Any
health of our public as well.
any idea, maybe to just add, how much does your department or city of Dallas spend on pesticides, chemicals, and fertilizers, to help people understand that this is not a small this is not a small expense? I don't know if
Well,
you're those numbers.
without having the numbers in front of me, and knowing that we're going through a couple of changes, I'm not going to say downsizing, but I'm
Mhm.
going to say strategically revising direction. So with
Mm.
that being said, I would say possibly a year, and that's including fertilizers and such. I'd say probably 150 to 200,000 a year, give or
Yeah.
take, and that might be on the conservative low end. And um, that's putting maybe 20,000 into my budget for that. So
Yeah.
64 parks, and again, you have your playgrounds, you have your pools, you have your aquatic centers, to which those need to be treated for pests and weeds as well. So that it is a these tariffs aren't necessarily doing anybody favors, and
Right.
Canada's being a mad hat right now. And fertilizers, there is a high number of fertilizers that do come from Canada, and they do supply a number of the products that this industry uses. So that is going to be an interesting challenge, and variable of temporary, long term for the economy, and how that's going to play into the consumers at the end of the day. But you raise another good point, because all of these inherent costs and applications does come with a good price point and price tag, to which we referenced, I think, in one of our previous calls. Is just the nature of how much things are costing nowadays.
Mm. Right.
um, I don't know what these figures would be like 10, 15 years ago, but I know for sure fertilizer was much cheaper then,
Right.
and just things of that nature. So the public gets used to these standardized services, but then, you know, we hear the balloon of the actual cost just keeps rising and rising and rising. So it's
Mm.
it's just something, another challenge to be aware of, and something to keep front of mind, to see how you're gonna to where you can order in advance, or have your stockpile, and just certain ways that how you can strategize against that. Because and this is just the park maintenance. You know, we have 6 golf courses that the city does own and operate itself. through its own division. So with 18-hole golf courses, I mean, that are going to come at a much higher end of maintenance. The amount of money that we would be spending into the products of that nature. So it would be a good amount.
Yeah, I had a shout out to Garrett James. He's one of the guys that's been on the show regularly. And I've had a couple of other golf course maintenance people, and they're spending $500,000 on pesticides, fertilizers, chemicals, stuff like that. But again, they're trying to maintain a much higher level. Yep.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Shout out to Garrett James. That's met him at because he used to run the Turtle Creek Conservancy, and our paths crossed as I was in that area of Dallas, and so it's always a good time seeing Garrett or getting to chit chat with him. Sad to see him go, but I know he's doing his thing, and he's definitely a park advocate. So definitely, and I'm glad to see him being on your show. Actually, I thought, and this was I'm going to be honest with you. As it popped up in my feed once, the first time around, I thought this was you and Garrett's show, and not that he was a guest. And I was like, "Damn, Garrett!
Look at Garrett
Way to go, man!"
I'm trying to rope.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm trying to rope you and Daniel and Garrett into more of a consistent. You know, as we build this out, there's so many topics and so much that could be said on this, and we've got an early group of people in facilities maintenance, you being one of them, on this little LinkedIn page. And that Brian's another good one that just recently joined from Atlanta. So I can't wait to get, a nice sized group of us. So that way that's more of a brain trust. I can just be the electrician brain trust. Everything else I'm deferring to y'all. This has not been my,
you got to put your aces in their places. And somebody told me that a long time ago. And it's true in this industry and in life. So you're not just the electrician, you're the activator and arranger here, right?
That's it. And I'll continue to do that.
Have your aces in there.
That's it. Well, let's look, we only got about 5 minutes left. I want to actually talk about, if it's okay, what we were talking about prior to the show, and maybe just promote SWPRTI, which stands for, what does it stand for? Southwest. I forget the whole acronym.
So yes, and that's okay. It's a mouthful. And thank you for the platform there. Before we jumped on the live call, I was talking to Craig about extending an invitation to bring his show to a conference that I'm involved with, and it's the Southwest Parks and Recreation Training Institute, SWPRTI. You can go to our website at swprti.org and check out more information on next year's institute. It is a special occasion because it will be our 70th anniversary. And so we have a lot of good, interesting is not the word. We have a lot of good surprises in store in the plans right now, with some more that will be developed. We'll be meeting for mid-year next month, and just kind of solidifying the educational components and just the vendors and things of that nature. But we will be featuring an arborist school. So if you have any staff members that are interested, or yourself that would like to, this is inception. This is from start to end. Sorry, I botched that, but it's from start to end. If you have an understanding of the ISA handbook, you're going to be served well. But even if you don't, throughout the days of this conference, it is going to be full training and a test at the end. So hopefully you can come out, spend some time with us at Sequoia State Park, and have you or somebody on your team get their ISA. And if you happen to see Craig and he's in attendance there, come by, say hello, and maybe even get a little spot on the podcast, because that was kind of the key focus there. And promote more so of exactly of what Craig is wanting to do, and just shine a light onto this industry. And I just wanted to kind of bring him into the fold, because there is a lot of experienced just great folks that I would love for them to be able to tell their story.
Yeah. And look, if this event's not coming till February of next year, I think it's around that time every year. But it's focused, and I've been
Mm-hmm.
here a long time ago. I think around 7 or 8 years ago, I attended thanks to Breck Park, great park system in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. But if there's any teachers or anyone else that's maybe organizing this that would like to come on the show leading up to the event next year, I'd love to have them just to kind of help maybe build some momentum in attendance and awareness leading up to that. Hopefully we can get some new people over there and make sure it's well attended.
I couldn't agree more, and I love it. If I happen to get some information for the speakers and what sessions that we will be planning to host, I can touch base with you, maybe connect with those individuals, and again, just kind of give them the platform and let them speak their substance to the masses. Give them that food for thought to chew on.
That's it. They can have they can warm up here live on the show and then make the real delivery, or just give us some teasers about what they're going to present. Maybe they can just, you know what they say, always leave them wanting more. So they can do a presentation and just leave a big cliffhanger and say, well, if you want to hear the rest of it, you've got to attend the live event, something like that.
Oh man, cliffhanger right there. There's your carrot.
Yeah,
I'm truly excited, and
yeah,
excellent, man. Next podcast I got to take it at the house because we're having too bad of a delay. You're frozen for me.
Oh, I can hear you perfectly. I think I can hear you. You can, or you might have a trouble hearing, but I don't know which side it's on. Usually if we do a hard reset on the computers, a lot of times that fixes it. But all right, well, we'll go ahead and close it because I've got another show coming up. But I appreciate you coming on today. And yeah, let's do this again.
Absolutely.
And maybe we can connect offline and go over this list and just try to add some color in and maybe do special shows along with professionals on some of this. Like in case we happen to know an irrigation specialist, we could get them on, something like that, and then just go through every category, try to fill it out. But
I love it. That sounds good. I'll reach out and we'll get something going.
Sounds like a plan. Well, have an awesome week.
Take care, Craig. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you, Joseph.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. So thank you, Joseph, once again for coming on to the show. We've got a nice list between him and Garrett, Daniel, Brian. We've got a few others. Ryan is another one. A growing team of just maintenance professionals that are helping me to organize this Monday through Thursday show, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, all about facilities maintenance and really starting to understand all the different compartments that a Parks and Rec professional in maintenance can find themselves in. And so, one of the things we talked about with Daniel yesterday was he does a lot of project management. And when I first got into facilities maintenance, I knew about it, but I didn't remember about it. But that is such a big part, so many moving pieces. It really falls right into that deferred maintenance equation. It's your maintenance departments that really brings back that information to say, hey, we may want to do more than just, try to maintain this thing. We're at the point where we need to push it down, put a new playground, put a new gym, whatever. It's, 50 years old, something like that. And then that really does fall on the shoulders of those in facilities maintenance. But as we start to develop a lot more of these, and then I want to bring professionals inside of each one of these categories. Some of them are consultants. I think make some really good content around those areas. So, all right. So we've got a show coming up here at 12 noon Eastern in about a half hour. So hopefully y'all can check in on our leadership series. We got a special guest coming up. He's going to teach us all about AI and government. And this is kind of what he does. When I found him on LinkedIn, I'm like, oh man, you got to come on the show. And so he's got a pretty cool story. I really like what he's working on. And I think it's very important for, people really anywhere in the world to embrace AI and to start using it as a tool, similar to how the farmers saw the tractor and they're like, okay, this is definitely better than the donkey or the mule that I'm using AI in the same way. It just allows you to do a lot more with a lot less, which is always what we're trying to do in Parks and Rec, because we've got limited budgets, we've got limited man hours. So if we can get 10 times the work done that we used to with the same man hour and the same dollar, why not do it? So this is kind of our first push at bringing you some content around AI and how it affects Parks and Recreation. So hopefully that'll be helpful, and that'll be coming up in about 29 minutes, so don't miss it. All right, Craig LeBlanc signing off with the Facilities Maintenance Show. I'll see y'all here in a bit with the Leadership Series. Bye. Welcome to the Daily Parks and Rec Show, where we highlight the essential work that keeps our parks and facilities thriving. From local ball fields to multi-use athletic complexes, field maintenance ensures every space is safe, ready, and welcoming for play and community events. Facility maintenance is the backbone of operational excellence, ensuring that recreation centers, playgrounds, and shared spaces are functional, clean, and built to last. Behind the scenes, equipment maintenance keeps vital tools and machinery in peak condition. At the core of future forward thinking is sustainability management, integrating green practices that reduce environmental impact and enhance long-term resource stewardship. Facilities maintenance is more than routine upkeep. It's strategic, essential, and foundational to building healthy and resilient communities. This is the Daily Parks and Rec Show, honoring the professionals who keep our spaces running and our communities strong.